You're tuned into the VSX Digital Sports Network. You're listening to the boss of the big boy, JP the Ticket. Vegas Scoreboard Express, giving you that grease.
Good morning, Las Vegas. All of my sports bettors around the world, you know what time it is. It's time to wake up, grab your bankroll, and hit the window and beat the line. It's Vegas Scoreboard Express back at you live here. KSHP 107.1 FM this morning. I have got some grease for you. I've got them all on the line. We're going to start them off with bringing him back, an old school fan of the show, VSX contributor and owner of KNUP Sports, the marketing company, my main man Rodney Knuppel out in Illinois. Good morning. How you doing?
What's going on, man? Good to be back on the show. Appreciate you, and you're doing a great job here.
Thank you so much, Rodney, for that. And then I told you guys I was going to be bringing you some new grease from the West Coast for this NFL season. Going to be talking some Raiders, some 49ers. My main man, Rudy Reyes from KSBY NBC6 affiliate out in Santa Barbara, San Luis Obispo, California. Good morning, Rudy. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Good morning. Thanks for having me on the show. I appreciate it.
I'm so glad to have you here. I promised the fans I would be bringing them some inside grease since the Raiders went to California, and we made it happen. And, of course, we got him on. Big Poppy, my main man, Daryl Harris, KLAS, CBS 8, host of the D-Hoop University podcast. Good morning to you, Daryl. We're going to be talking some WNBA again with you this morning. How you doing?
Oh, man, happy to be here. Full house. Let's do it.
That's what I'm talking about. Full house today, guys. So I want you to stay on the line with me. I'm going to take a short commercial break, get the sponsors, and you guys be sure to support those sponsors and keep it locked here on KSHP. We're going to be recapping the preseason, talking a little bit of college football, top 25. That's right, not the video game, how to put cash in your pocket, get you some grease. And most importantly, it's the group home family, and we're here to get that money.
You're listening to the boss of the big boy, JP the Ticket. Vegas Scoreboard Express, giving you that grease.
It's time to wake up and win the weekend.
You're listening to the boss of the big boy, JP the Ticket. Giving you that grease.
Join me every Saturday and Sunday from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Pacific time for the live action on Vegas Scoreboard Express on KSHP 107.1 FM and AM 1400. Dive into the game day with my in-depth analysis, expert predictions, and winning plays from the sharpest minds in sports betting. It's more than just placing bets. It's about securing wins. Head over to jptheticket.com and be sure to tune in to KSHP this weekend from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Pacific time to ride the winning wave with VSX. Tune in and get your money back from the sports book. All money, all sports, no bull. Miss the live show? Subscribe to Vegas Scoreboard Express on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn, and wherever you enjoy your favorite podcast and radio listening.
To the boss of the big boy, JP the Ticket. Vegas Scoreboard Express. Turn that shit off. Giving you that grease.
JP the Ticket back at you live here, 107.1 FM, AM 1400, KSHP here in Las Vegas, iHeartRadio around the world, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, you name it, I am there, dropping some grease this morning. Again, my main man, Rodney Knuppel, KNUP Sports out in Chicagoland area, Rudy Reyes out in Santa Barbara, San Luis Obispo, California, from NBC6 KSBY, and of course, my main man here in Las Vegas, Daryl Harris, KLAS, CBS 8, here in Las Vegas. So, guys, let's go ahead and jump into the grease. It has been an eventful NFL preseason. Let's talk about some of the games that happened yesterday. I will start off with you, Rodney. It's been a while since we had you on the show. Again, thank you so much for coming back on. Want to talk to you a little bit about your Chicago Bears, man. So far, they are 3-0 in the preseason, doing their thing, making it happen. for those Chicago fans out there. You've got Tyler Badgett, the Division II guy, getting the start and putting a hurting on the Bengals. All you Bengals fans out there, looks like the Bears took away the Tiger power 27-3 yesterday. Yes, we know it's preseason, but the Bears are 3-0. What do you see out of Caleb Williams, man? Are you guys excited about him out there? Go ahead, Rodney.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the big story here is that Caleb Williams, at least in early going and in training camp, looks legit for the Bears. And again, I know it's preseason, but the Bears' defense has also looked really good, just allowing 9 points over the last 2 preseason games. So,
right.
Yeah, a lot of good things to like for the Bears that came into the season 7-10 last year, but have high hopes and some decent odds to get to the playoffs this year.
Yes, the odds are looking good for the Chicago Bears. Rudy Reyes, I want to throw you in here talking a little bit about that Raiders game yesterday. I told everybody to take the under if it went over 40. It did. The total was 41. But unfortunately, the Raiders are having a tough preseason. Now, that's not a reason to throw in the towel just yet. We know that they've moved to Vegas. We had some great preseason starts and then ended up missing the playoffs the last couple of seasons. But yesterday, a hurting was put on them by those Cowboys. 27-12, 2 points under the situation that we had here. And you talk about those Cowboys and their issues in the front office, offering CeeDee Lamb well over close to $350 million to play some football. But the Raiders right now, that offense is looking a little shaky. Darryl Harris, I'll have you come in after Rudy. Rudy, what did you see yesterday? Are you a believer in the offensive capabilities of this new coordinator and the head coaching capabilities of Antonio Pierce? Because just to get 4 field goals yesterday at the first home game technically for Antonio Pierce, it wasn't a good showing, and they're 0-2 right now in the preseason. Again, not a reason to throw in the towel. Some great preseasons in recent seasons past, but this could be a cause of worry here. Go ahead.
Well, it's definitely a cause of worry. I mean, Pierce is trying to make a name for himself, and of course, he has buy-in from ownership and Mark Davis. I think one of the things they need to really be concerned with is the starting quarterback, and of course, the offensive line has a lot to do with that, and protection to be able to roll out and make things happen on the run. The problem I have with this is that when you look at the Cowboys, they look good. It is preseason. It is vanilla offense, vanilla defense. There isn't a whole lot unless you put a cherry on top of that vanilla. But I think the Raiders really need to be concerned with the starting QB. I don't think it's going to be AOC. I just seen a lot of things from Gardner Minshew that make you a believer in what he has and the reason why he was brought over. One of the things he struggles with is pocket passing. But when he's out on the roll, forget about it. And he makes you pay down the field. I think the Raiders have a lot to contend with. Of course, there's still 1 preseason game left for some teams, and others are just going to the end of August with their preseason look. So I think a lot to be concerned with from the Raiders' standpoint when you only put up 12 points against the Cowboys, who had 27. No Dak Prescott. They looked really decent coming into the season, even without CeeDee Lamb, and a lot of lingering questions in regards to contracts, for guys like Micah Parsons. So a lot of questions for the Cowboys, at least yet. But I think some of that was put to bed with some of the playmakers they have on both sides of the ball for Dallas. So it doesn't really surprise me to see the Cowboys go up and win this game, especially at Allegiant yesterday.
Yeah, the Cowboys taking down that plus 260. Going over to you, Darryl Harris. Great analysis, Rudy. Again, that's Rudy Reyes, KSBY, NBC6 affiliate out in the Central Coast of California. Let's talk a little bit about Trey Lance. We know that he actually came in to your area, Rudy, with the 49ers, traded down to the Cowboys, had a decent showing yesterday, 15-23, 151 yards and a touchdown. Cooper Rush came in, was serviceable, 1 of 3, but the work was already done by Trey Lance. So when you talk about that quarterback situation down in Dallas, is there going to be a question, and I'm throwing this one over to you, Darryl Harris, here at KLAS CBS 8, host of the D-Hoop University podcast. And by the way, Rudy, you've got a podcast, The Rude Dog Show. Be sure, guys that are listening out there around the world and here in Las Vegas and everywhere that you guys are tuned in, therudedogshow.com. Be sure to check that out. But let's talk about it. Trey Lance, is he going to have a resurgence down in Dallas? And if so, could we be looking at Dak Prescott to possibly get traded to a contender? Go ahead, Darryl.
Yeah, it was a backup battle yesterday because it was there for the taking. The game was there for the taking for the Raiders, and Trey Lance was solid. He was sound in his decision making. He didn't really cost the team at all.
Yep, no interceptions.
If anything, it should show Dallas that, hey, you know what? You might want to take a closer look at this guy while you have him in the office. Don't just have him there and, backing up Dak Prescott without ever giving him a look. If anything, infiltrate him because he can use his legs, so you can get a different look back there.
Right.
As for the Raiders, Aiden O'Connell had the team marching. They ended up getting a field goal, or they scored a touchdown, went for two, didn't get the 2-point conversion, they're still down by a point. Next drive, they dominated the ball in the second half.
Right.
Next drive, looking good, marching, pick 6. And that was really, really, really a shot that hurt the team.
Well, let's talk about it. You talk about dominating the ball. This is what I talked about last year, that the Raiders did dominate the ball. They were, I think, 5th in time of possession, but they're not getting any sort of value from a point perspective. 247 yards to a total yards, pass yards, that is, of the Cowboys to 157. 137 yards on the ground. That was telling for the Cowboys. Better running attack. I talked about the possibility of having a weak running attack this year with the Raiders. Didn't see too much out of the running backs. But we had a total offense of 315 yards to 294 and ended up losing by 2 touchdowns and a couple of field goals. So we got to get that offense up and running. I'm telling you right now, last year averaging 19 points a game, not going to get it done. Let's move along to another game that we had here on the line. Throwing this one back over to you, Rodney, over in Chicago. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Battle of Florida, ended up losing to the Jaguars. We gave out the Jaguars yesterday as one of our free key picks, 20-17. You take a look at where the Jaguars are right now, and we talked about this yesterday, Daryl, about moving into the second year of Doug Peterson. You said you're buying stock in him. I'll start off with you, Rodney, and then move over to you, Rudy. Do you think the Jacksonville Jaguars are for real in that AFC South? Very efficient offense yesterday, total of 339 yards. I know it's preseason, but you got to look at the offensive scheme. And if the scheme can produce with second and third stringers, there's no reason for you not to think it would produce with the starting lineup. But go ahead, Rodney. Are the Jacksonville Jaguars for real? And can you possibly take them to win that division to get you maybe plus 100, depending on where you go? Go ahead.
Yeah, I think so, because you're seeing a lot of love for Houston and the C.J. Stroud kind of train there. And, and Stroud had a great rookie year, but who's to say his production will be just as high this year or, barring an injury, anything like that. So, yeah, I love the odds for Jacksonville. Trevor Lawrence getting that contract, going to get him some confidence there. He's got weapons with Christian Kirk, Gabe Davis, Brian Thomas. So, yeah, that's a nice squad. I do like the Jaguars, and you can get them around even money. Yeah, I think it's a great bet to make.
Yeah,
there in the division.
Right, and you talk about winning that whole division. Rotation number 1202 at your sportsbooks, fans. I am with my guys over at BetUS.com. Use offer code VSX125 when you sign up. Get that 125% bonus on your initial deposit. If you need gambling help, go to the bottom of jbtheticket.com and click that link. But the Jacksonville Jaguars are plus 270. Now we move back over into another preseason game that was quite interesting yesterday. We just mentioned him, the Houston Texans. Rudy Reyes, I'll throw this one over to you. We talked about C.J. Stroud just now. Is he for real? That offense, I look at head coach DeMeco Ryan. He's got an offense that is clicking with second stringers. Over 28 points scored yesterday, 28-10 over the hapless New York Giants. I'm not even going to go in on my hometown today, okay? There was some disappointing play out there. But the Houston Texans are for real. And I've been talking about that defense holding the Giants to a pretty tepid, scoreless second half. I mean, it doesn't get much worse than that. But a shout-out to the Houston Texans defense for making it happen. So, again, Rudy, are the Houston Texans for real? They're not giving you much value to win the AFC South at rotation number 1201. Only even money, but maybe that could be a long-term parlay if you want to take a division parlay in the AFC. Three-teamer. Go ahead.
I think a division parlay may be right up your alley. C.J. Stroud at 4,108 yards, 23 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. Really, on the other side of the ball, you have Trevor Lawrence, who just could not get it done last year. I mean, he just looked like a deer in headlights. They won 31-21 and their opener, and then lost 2 in a row, won like 5 in a row. Mm-hmm. And just it was an up and down season for the Jacksonville Jaguars. I don't have a lot of stock. I don't care what kind of contract you're going to hand someone. It's like the little kid in Tiny Tim saying, more porridge, please. And I think they're going to need a lot more than just porridge to get the season and even trying to claim and battle the Houston Texans for that first position. But when it comes to C.J. Stroud, he's just, he's Rookie of the Year for a reason.
Yeah, he's dynamic.
Why?
Yes.
Yeah, he's great out of the pocket. He's good inside of the pocket. He makes the right reads. And, of course, you have barring injury, but you can have that conversation for any player throughout the NFL landscape. It doesn't really matter, but especially in the quarterback position, that certainly does hamper your ability to win games. I just think the Texans are going to pick up where they left off from last season. They ended up at 10-7, which basically put them in a playoff positioning. Jaguars just could not get it done. I don't care how much money you give someone. That may be an incentive, but that doesn't mean you're going to play better with that incentive. So if there's a winner within that division, it's still going to be the Texans back-to-back.
There you go. He's liking the Texans, what D'Amico Ryan and C.J. Stroud is doing. I am going to go in on my New York Giants because I've just pulled up the stat sheet. They're like, JB, you got to talk about it. Absolutely atrocious. You talk about a guy who got money who's not going to be playing too much more football if he keeps producing games like this. Getting the start in the preseason, Daniel Jones, 11 of 18, 138, a pick monster. No touchdowns, 2 picks. And then you got Tommy DeVito, him and his agent out there. I'm not going to talk too much crap about him. Don't know who they could send, but we got boys too. But the point I'm making is no touchdowns for the New York Giants, and they are relying on these two quarterbacks. I didn't see anyone else in training camp. I didn't see anyone get brought in. Throwing this one over to you, Darryl Harris. This is a situation for the New York Giants where it's all going to come down to who is going to throw to their dynamic receivers. They've got that young kid. I think he's out of South Carolina. He's got the deep Southern accent. Everybody's talking about how great he's going to be. But when you've got a quarterback who can't even get the ball in their hands, let alone get in the end zone, and then you've got the flash in the pan last year on the backup, we're seeing what the Giants are going to have to offer, and it's not looking that great. I'll throw that one over to you, Darryl Harris. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'm paying attention to Malik Neighbors a lot. You know how invested I get into these fantasy football leagues, and the part of me wants to have him. They're saying that he could be the second coming of an Odell Beckham as a rookie, both LSU products. And in conversations I'm having, even just with my barber, he's like, but his quarterback is Daniel Jones. How incredible of a season is he going to have? Realistically, I mean, we saw Evan Ingram sort of fade away in that offense just a couple of years ago. He went to Jacksonville last year and had the best season of his career by far.
There you go.
And what other success stories can we point to in terms of special position players in that Brian Daboll offense? And I'm rooting for Brian Daboll. I like the guy. He seems like a good guy. But it seems like another top 10 drafting position season for the Giants.
Yeah, I mean, the Giants are just looking atrocious. What they are showing you in preseason is what they're going to have to offer. Let's move along to another NFL game, guys. Again, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you guys so much out in Radio Land for listening. If you're tuning in online, KSHB.com, JBTheTicket.com. You're listening to me, JB the Ticket, of course, with my main man, Rodney Knuppel from KNUP Sports out in Chicago, Rudy Reyes, KSBY, NBC6, The Rude Dog Show out in Central Coast, California, and Darryl Harris right here, CBS 8 KLAS in Las Vegas. So yesterday we mentioned this team. We're going to take a short commercial break, but the Detroit Lions got the big bag yesterday, man. They shocked the whole world. Win by one, lose by none, get the money. That's what we say here on the show. I talked about the Detroit Lions. Are they for real? Dan Campbell requires a lot. People seem like they want to play. Players want to play in Detroit, and they want to play for Dan Campbell. And those guys trying to make the 53-man roster yesterday put on a show. 24-23, winning in Kansas City. The Chiefs are 0-2 right now in the preseason, but we know that normally doesn't affect them in the regular season as they are the Super Bowl winning champions as the season, gets going. They won it last year, but plus 310, Detroit Lions doing their thing. Nick Sudfeld, they got this guy named Hooker. It was a win by committee type thing, but when you talk about the actual total yards, 459 total yards for the Detroit Lions. I'll throw this one over to you, Rodney, because you're closer to it. Rudy will get you in there on this comment, and then Darryl will go to commercial break with your comments. Rodney, Detroit Lions, are they for real this year? Are they going to make that real push and get to where they need to be? I like what I saw of the defense. Go ahead.
I mean, yeah, that's a really, really good team, and it's going to be a better division, I think, with Green Bay still being good and Chicago being better. But, yes, the Lions are still legit and probably still the second-best team in the NFC.
There you go. That's what he said. That's what he said. That's what he said. He said he believes that. Rudy Reyes, throwing this one over to you. Detroit Lions, are they for real? And then I want to throw a secondary piece of question for you. Is this the year that the Kansas City Chiefs falls off? They've got Hollywood. They've had scandals over the years. Andy Reid is getting long in the tooth. If they happen to have one of those E! Entertainment specials or Bravo specials with Taylor Swift marrying that kid Kelsey, outside of football, man, you know that stuff can affect you. You're out in California. You know how Hollywood works. Are the Lions for real, and are the Chiefs in trouble? Go ahead.
I think that coaching staff has them in line, in position. You look from what happened last year and the fact they were knocking on the door. And it just screams as though Dan Campbell has these guys working in the ways and almost flowing into the following season. I hate to say that, but it's true. You look at guys like Sam Laporta, you look at St. Brown, Jared Goff, newly repaid QB. There's just so many things to like about the Lions team. You wouldn't have this conversation with them 3 years ago, but since Jared Goff has been there, learned the system, understand the system, I think the Lions are going to pick up where they left off and find a way to get over that hump, and I think people should be taking them legitimately.
Yes, I love it as well. Let's talk about those Kansas City Chiefs. Darrell Harris, we'll throw this in there for you. Kansas City losing by a point yesterday. A lot of jokesters, a lot of playing around, a lot of stuff like that going on the field. Do you find that to be a valuable situation for Kansas City? They've got a lot of off-the-field, I won't want to call it drama until it becomes drama, but distraction until it becomes distraction. But we're talking about the Chiefs more for non-football related stuff. And I don't think that anything that the Kansas City Chiefs want to be talked about other than football is barbecue. But now they got that Hollywood element. Do you think that's going to continue to affect them? Only one more preseason game. They're 0-2. Is this just a tune-up for them to try to defend for that Lombardi trophy? Or are you seeing what the Lions did to them in preseason as a pre-tell of what other teams can do if they really press the button? Go ahead.
Yeah, I think you got to take a long, hard look at where their season win projection is at and consider the under, because they're going to have a first-place schedule. They had a great regular season last year. They're going to have to repeat that this year against tough opponents, and they know what they're in for. They're running a marathon, a sprint. They're eyeing January and February, and they're going to be ready when that time comes. But they've got a lot of off-the-field stories. You got the Rasheed Rice story. You got Marquise Brown hurting himself before he touches the field. We know that Patrick Mahomes will unlock a new weapon every year, so expect Xavier Worthy to be a problem in the receiving group, and Travis Kelce to start the season healthy versus injured like he did last season. However, Detroit's got their number possibly. This is a repeat of the opener last year. Morale is a buzzword during preseason. Morale in that Detroit locker room looks really, really high. 400-some yards in the preseason game is impressive. And this team should be mentioned with Super Bowl contenders. Again, we said yesterday, Jared Goff. Can you get this team there? They were within a field goal or so and against the 49ers in the conference championship this past year. They haven't forgotten that. All of those guys, all of those fans felt so close to a Super Bowl. It was their first postseason run like that in decades. They want to do it. So we got to pay attention to that Detroit team.
There you go, Detroit Lions. He's telling you right now, rotation number 1501 for the division win, getting you plus 140. Guys, we're going to take a short commercial break on the half hour. Thank you so much for listening this morning. KSHP 107.1 FM, AM 1400, JB the Ticket, Vegas Scoreboard Express. Keep it locked. Let's get that money.
You're listening to the Big Ball. JB the Ticket. Vegas Scoreboard Express. Giving you that grease.
Skip your cable bill this month. Enjoy the action with JB and Fubo TV. Get 7 days free. 15% off your first month. No credit check. No deposit. No installation hassle. Go to FuboTV.com/JB. Sign up, download the app, and start watching games.
Enjoy being a subscriber after the first month. Easy cancellation anytime. Regional restrictions apply. Sign up at VegasScoreboardExpress.com.
Start Steiner's, the Nevada-style pub, invites you to play the best tavern, keno, and video poker in Vegas. Promos are how we roll, so make the most of your gaming dollars here with us. Come play our proud partner gaming promotion, Fly Aviators Fly, and receive daily free play, bonuses, and more. With a chance to win awesome brand of prizes and big money for all the jackpots each week. It's not only great gaming that Steiner's Pub has, it's the 24 awesome rotating draft beers, and Vegas' best appetizers to match. So join us in supporting your Las Vegas Aviators, Golden Knights, Lights, Aces, and the Raiders as we make history in Vegas. Steiner's, the Nevada-style pub at 8410 West Cheyenne, 1750 North Buffalo, and Las Vegas Boulevard at Windmill. Steiner's, I love this place.
Yo. You're in the mix. World's finest. You're listening to the boss of the big ball. JP the Catcher. Vegas scoreboard. Giving you that green.
Back at you live, JB the Ticket, Vegas Scoreboard Express. The number one sports betting show in America. You know what time it is. It's time to grab your bankroll, hit the window, and beat the line. I've got him on the line with me here. My main man, Rodney Knuppel from KNUP Sports out in Chicagoland area. Rudy Reyes, KSBY, NBC6, Central California Coast. And Daryl Harris right here from KLAS, CBS 8 in Las Vegas. So, guys, we want to talk a little bit of a college football. Top 25 is back on deck. Very first game of the college football season coming up in a couple of days. Next Saturday, August the 24th, you got Florida State, the number 10 preseason ranked team, going up against Georgia Tech. Now, we got to talk about Florida State because last year they got snubbed. Woo-wee! Had a whole bunch of wins. They ain't even let us go to the championship. You know, they did us all dirty. Yo, mama. You know what I'm saying? They ain't trying to help us. Throwing this one over to you, Rodney Knuppel. Oh, the Florida State Seminoles for real, okay? Because they had some issues last year when Daryl just talked about it before the commercial break with the Lions having high morale. Florida State getting a top 10 preseason ranking, but I feel that they are looking for blood. You've got the realignment in college football, no more Pac-12 getting absorbed by the Big Ten and all that. But the Florida State Seminoles, what a season that they have ahead of them to go undefeated last year and not get a look at that college football national championship playoff series. I think it was a very, very hurtful to their program. But again, this year, what more could they have done last year to get the opportunity? Are they going to be as motivated this year to do this? And with that being said, Georgia Tech coming in last year, pretty solid season in the ACC. Could Georgia Tech maybe play a home dog spoiler when they go up against Florida State coming up next Saturday? Go ahead, Rodney.
Well, yeah, I mean, you asked, Florida State is for real again, and they were for real last year. We all know that. I mean, if it was a 12-team playoff, they would have no problem there. Now, one thing to keep in mind, I believe this game is in Ireland. So
if it's in Ireland, shout out to my main man, Mavericks Way. I should have known that. Shout out my main man, Mavericks Way. He's always listening to the show over in Dublin, Ireland. Also give a quick shout out to my main man, Don Smith, down in Houston, Texas. My law school classmate told me the Houston Texans are for real. I told you guys I get grease from every major city that we cover. But yeah, if this game is going to be overseas, okay, so take away that home field advantage, expanding and putting college football around the world. But when you talk about those Florida State Seminoles, last year they went undefeated, man. These guys were balling, but they didn't get included. If you're a player that's coming back this year, if you haven't already jumped into that popular transfer portal, how do you find these guys getting up for that? I'll throw this one over to you, Rudy Reyes. The Florida State Seminoles, undefeated season last year. I've actually taken them off of my betting board this year. I don't think they're going to be that motivated. What do they have to prove? This is a new generation of kids, man. They're not as hungry. They went undefeated last year. They went on Instagram. They got their influencer money. But I don't think that now a national championship is that much of a reality for players at Florida State. If Florida State happens to get left out of the big dance again, that's going to have an issue with recruiting. But starting off the season overseas, playing a Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets team that's unranked, that's always playing as the underdog, looking for money. Rudy, how do you see it shaping up for Florida State? Go ahead.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting because you have to incentivize these guys. As college players, you know, the ultimate goal is to win a championship, but some of them may not be motivated. So if you incentivize that, and of course, NIL guys are going to be looking for that extra money, right? The extra motivation. Of course, money does motivate people, as you obviously know, JV, but when I look at the Seminoles, I look at this as, they do have a high ceiling. They could do it again and go 12-0. But Georgia Tech in Dublin, I'm not really a fan. I'm not really a betting guy when it comes to this, only because you look at a Labor Day, people aren't going to be doing a whole lot. They're going to flip to the channels. Oh, all of a sudden here's a game in Dublin, Ireland.
There you go.
It's a nice venue, but, at the end of the day, I really think that Georgia Tech could spoil this if for some reason if these Florida State players are not incentivized enough in order to win this matchup.
There you go. That's what I'm talking about. Let's give that early rotation number. Get these bets in early at BetUS or at your sportsbook if they have it available. Rotation number 305, the Florida State Seminoles, -11. That's a big spread to get the season started overseas. -450 on the money line. Very, very expensive. Total 55.5. Looking for a big scoring day out of Florida State. Thinking they can run the score up, but you got Georgia Tech there. Rotation number 306, +11, looking like a solid dog on a neutral field here. +340, anything can happen. Throwing this one over to you, Darryl Harris. Are the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets poised to make some noise? Because, again, they've been on the brink. Got some good money line wins last year, but coming in this season unranked, knowing that the transfer portal is available, are we going to see some diamonds in the rough, some cream rise to the top with a team like Georgia Tech that did do well in the transfer portal this year in the ACC? Go ahead. Darryl, go ahead.
Yeah, I can't tell you that I've been paying very close attention to a team like Georgia Tech this summer. However, with this new revamp,
go ahead.
With this revamped format for this college football season, expect teams that do have good regular seasons and expect some off the radar teams to make some noise and contend for a playoff spot.
Right.
There's always whether it's a Liberty or a Northern Illinois or somebody that runs the table against their competition, and historically they haven't been able to crack even one of those top spots, say if they went undefeated. But a one-loss season for one of these teams, I think North Carolina deserves consideration in that same division in terms of surpassing expectations coming into the season.
Right.
Texas A&M is another team that I think looks very, very potent coming into the season. We have to expect some teams to make noise that traditionally wouldn't be in that conversation.
There you go. Now let's go back over to you. I'll throw this one to you, Rodney Knuppel. Let's talk about those Texas Longhorns, man. They've been knocking at the door for quite some time. They have got a guy, I don't know if he's still there, but Peyton Manning's little brother, Arch Manning. Is he ever going to get a chance to play? Hello? You got Texas coming in right now, top 25 preseason ranking, number 4. These guys didn't do too much last year. They were disappointing in the college football playoff. People said they shouldn't even have been there. But we talked about this last year, Rodney, about the politics of the big conferences now beginning to start to dominate in the pay-for-play era. And then I'll throw this one over to you, Rudy. Texas, this is a team that has really come on in form the last couple of seasons, building up that running attack. The defense has gotten better, but there's a continued question with offense, okay? They start off the season at home, Colorado State coming in to play them. Looks like a tune-up game. But are we going to see Arch Manning? Is Arch Manning going to end up being a third, fourth-year player transferring, getting some reps, or are we going to see him pull a possible Matt Castle where you don't get off the bench much, a la USC, still get an opportunity to go to the NFL in one of those later rounds? Because I've been very interested in seeing what this young man can do on the field, but there has been some question of whether he's still going to be the possible starter. Go ahead, Rodney.
Yeah, I mean, Quinn Ewers is going to be the starter until he's not. I mean, I think he did the job last year, and I think Sarkisian's going to go back to him. But, yeah, what are you going to do with Arch Manning? The big thing for Texas I see is the loss of one of their running backs. C.J. Baxter went out, but, they've got a whole herd of them, so they're going to be okay. But going to the SEC is going to be very interesting for them. It's probably going to pay its toll on them as the season goes. So I'm not really excited about putting a bet down on Texas to reach the college football playoffs.
There you go.
Getting into that SEC.
There you go.
Be a whole new beat.
There you go. Rudy Reyes, chime in on that. I heard you chomping at the bit. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say that I think they have more concerns in regards to the running back position than I do the quarterback position, because Kristen Clark sustained a torn Achilles, which is obviously meaning for him, I'm done for the season, and now he has to reboot for 2024. So I think this is more about what they're going to do offensively. Of course, Arch Manning, if he gets the opportunity, then great. I would like for him to play. There are obviously a lot of questions in regards to the quarterback competition. I don't think this is really that close between either one of these guys, and they're really going to have to prove it. It could be a QB by committee.
Yeah,
and a running back by committee there in Texas. So we're going to find out what's really going on, because don't forget, they have Colorado State at the end of August, Michigan, UTSA, and ULM, both UTSA and ULM possible wins for them. But, I mean, against Michigan and Colorado State to open the season, that's brutal.
That's going to be brutal.
And not have your quarterback in position, it's going to be tough. We're going to find out what this Texas Longhorn team is really made of. Now, don't forget, when you look at Oklahoma, this is like the matchup of still matchups, right? Because they won the last 4
right.
5 matchups against Texas, and 34-30 when the Sooners drove 75 yards in a minute to win.
That's what I was talking about. That Texas defense, still a lot of questions. The secondary, bringing in some guys. Let's go to Southern California here, because, Darryl, I want to bring you in on this. Rudy Reyes as well. Of course, my main man, Rodney Knuppel. The USC Trojans moving over to the Big Ten. They got in the top 25 preseason rankings at number 23. No Caleb Williams, no Savior. Who's going to be coming in at quarterback? I think they're going with the former UNLV product, Maivia, but I wish he would have stayed here at UNLV. We'll talk about UNLV in one of our specials during the week. You guys got to get over to jbtheticket.com to get those. But for the USC Trojans, now playing a primarily Midwestern schedule, do you think they're going to fall out of the rankings really quickly? Also, shout out to USC. We are the flagship station here in Las Vegas for the USC Trojans games. Be sure to tune in every Saturday. But can USC compete in that Big Ten? Can they get back to prominence now that the Pac-12 is no more? And I'll throw this one over to you, Rudy Reyes. You're out in California, and then go over to you, Darryl. Go ahead.
You know, that's going to be an interesting question, because without Caleb, Lincoln Riley's going to have an extremely tall task in trying to find out how to beat an extremely talented LSU team on a neutral site to open up this season. Now, they haven't had their welcome to the Big Ten moment, but they will. It's going to happen a lot sooner than later. As far as the questions are concerned for quarterbacks, man, that seems to be like the hot ticket right now. I think that Moss, which is a redshirt junior, will enter the campaign as a presumptive starter. I like the presumption. I just don't know how well he's going to be under center. But it's good to know that he stayed and stuck through it all despite not being able to play. So we're going to find out if Miller Moss is ready to lead the Trojans back. That remains to be seen, and the fluidity that he has along with that offensive line. And if they can keep him upright, I think USC will have their welcome to the Big Ten moment. They may not smack them upside the head, but may smack somebody else upside the head instead.
There you go. I think that welcome to the Big Ten moment is going to come on September 21st at Michigan. Throwing this one down to you. Quick talk about USC, and then we're going to move over to Michigan back with Rodney Knuppel. But here, staying with you, Darryl, in Southern California. Can the USC Trojans get back to prominence? There's no more dominance of the Pac-12. I think by dominating the West Coast, they were able to have that prominent name branding. Now it's essentially an outlier team in a Midwestern conference. What do they have to do to maintain relevance? And do you see, or do you know of any particular player who could be a difference maker for the Trojans this season? Go ahead. Darryl.
Well, we're going to find out right away, because they've got a matchup with LSU in week 1. So these boys better be. They know that I'm sure they've circled that date on the calendar, September 1st, all season, all summer long. I need to see something, man, because we got Moss Miller playing at a quarterback, coming in with Maivia as a backup as of now, and yes, he's filling big shoes. In terms of wideouts, they've had a couple players go to the draft every season. Who that is this year, I don't know.
Right.
So,
I've been looking at the running back core. You got this guy Quentin Joyner out there. You've also got Woody Marks. Who's going to run the football? The running back core is kind of thin. I'm only seeing about 4 or 5 guys on the depth chart, but it looks like Quentin Joyner or Woody Marks could get the start. Who do you think is going to be better out of them? Because they got a freshman, Amarian Peterson, but again, with him being a freshman, I don't really see that happening. Quentin Joyner, a little bit more dynamic as a scat back, but do you think they're going to go with the senior? Go ahead.
Yep, that's exactly what I was going to comment on, is that you've got underclassmen anchoring a lot of these positions, and I don't know if that's going to cut the mustard on the national level. They've got one of our guys from Las Vegas, Zachariah Branch, at receiver. Shout out to him. He's a sophomore, 5'10", 175. Makai Lemons also at receiver, 5'11", 190. So hey, a learning curve is probably in their future, but of course I'm rooting for them. We're going to see first week if they're ready for this challenge.
I want to see what that offense can do, and last year the defense was quite holier than the Pope. Throwing this one over to you, going back to the top 25, talking about those Ohio State Buckeyes. That's going to be one of their Big Ten foes as well. Ohio State number 2 under Georgia. Now, Georgia being ranked number 1 this year. Again, there's some questions there, and we'll talk about that during the specials this week. But I wanted to talk to you a little bit about Ohio State. Haven't heard a lot about Ohio State in the offseason. They open up with a pretty easy schedule, starting off Akron, Michigan, Western Michigan, and then Marshall. Marshall's no slouch, but again, if Ohio State can start off at 3-0 before they get their season and conference, quote-unquote, really started going up against Michigan State. Rodney, this question is for you. Are the Buckeyes for real this year? Are they going to be able to compete and get into that national championship playoff? Because we've seen them on the outside looking in as well in the past few recent seasons. Go ahead.
Yes, they are for real, but Ryan Day is probably the coach with the most pressure on him to get to the college football playoff and win college football playoff games of any coach in the country right now. I mean, continuing to lose to Michigan in the rivalry games and coming up a little short. Now, he did win, or they won the transfer portal. I mean, they just continued to get guys. I mean, Marvin Harrison Jr. is obviously a big loss, but grabbing Will Howard and several other guys, they're loaded. And outside of Oregon, I mean, I think them and Oregon are 1-2 in the Big Ten. I think Michigan's a ways down at 3. And you look at Ohio State's schedule, I mean, they do have to go to Oregon, and then, of course, they've got to go to Penn State, and then they have Michigan on there. So it's going to be a tough task for them, but I like Ohio State with that talent over any of the other teams in the Big Ten, maybe outside of Oregon. Oregon's going to be awfully dang good again.
He's like, Oregon is going to be for real. Going over to you, Rudy Reyes. Let's talk about another team he just mentioned here. They're in the top 25. Let's stay here on the West Coast. The Oregon Ducks. Again, no more Pac-12, but they are in the number 3 position, top 25 preseason. Are the Oregon Ducks for real? And the question that I ask again is, when you take these teams that played in kind of these, what they call a major conference, but the talent was pretty mid. I mean, you looked at the teams that they played up in the Pac-12. You had Washington State. You know what I'm saying? You know, Washington before they got Penix was kind of weak, and then just go on down the line. Cal had, come undone over the last 20 years. So is Oregon really going to be able to compete with the corn-fed boys in the Midwest? Go ahead, Rudy.
I definitely believe so. They have a really high ceiling on them. They could match a 12-0 start. I'm just saying, even without Bo Nix under center. But you look at Dylan Gabriel, the name starting quarterback for the Ducks. He's expected to lead them in the Big Ten Conference. The issue that I have is Dylan Gabriel for the Ducks is certainly a guy you got to look out for. He's the proverbial starting quarterback for the Ducks team. But I think when you look at the conference, they're certainly going to lead them down into better waters. No, there's no Bo Nix, and he moved on. He got drafted by Denver. So I think when you look at the Ducks and you look at their overall capabilities of matching up against Ohio State in Eugene, that's a serious game to look at. That's going to be a key marquee matchup, and that's just going to be one of many. But I think that they're going to face another top 5 in the country as their season goes on. So a lot to like about the Ducks, not a whole lot of conversation about them. Just like Ohio State, you don't hear a whole lot about them until they actually play. And this is where they're at. So I think the Ducks could be on like a reload, not really a reset, but a reload,
right?
Because they did lose Bo Nix.
There you go. Bo Nix, again, looking like the possible starter down in Denver. But we're talking about the Ducks, and let's talk about the other team last year that had to go up against the Ducks and ended up getting smacked. Talk about those Colorado Buffaloes. Coach Prime is moving over to the Big 12. He started off the season last year beating a Big 12 team in TCU and got the country in a frenzy, and then the wheels fell off. While Bill Hickok got out there and start capping those Buffaloes, they got smashed for the rest of the season. Looking at their season start August the 29th, moving down a division, taking on North Dakota State, which has been no slouch in their division. Colorado, Coach Prime, again, shout out to my main man Don Smith out in Houston. we're not going to go easy on him, man, because he costed us a lot of money last year in dog positions. Defense was atrocious. We're getting bad reports coming out of the whole program. Some good stuff coming out. You know, Coach Prime yelling at all the, the media members and stuff and like that. I mean, it's just, is it about football? Are they going to win some games this year, or are we going to see the possibility of Colorado having another meltdown? Because I'm just saying, they got Travis Hunter, but when he went out last year, that whole team imploded. And when you have stuff like that happen, you can't expect to put money in your pocket. So I'm going to throw this one over to you, Rodney Knuppel. Buffaloes. They're unranked. They're not really going to shock the world in their first game this year. Probably no one's even going to tune into that one unless they lose. It'll make big news. And then they go in September 7th and play Nebraska, a team they beat last year. A reality. Clearly the frenzy for Coach Prime is over. But on the football field, can this team produce? Can they get you money lines? Can they get you spreads? Colorado Buffaloes, and then we'll take it on out and get to the sports book. Go ahead.
Rodney. I mean, I'm not really going to be betting on much. I'm probably going to be fading them because they are going to be so popular week after week. I mean, I would not be shocked if they lose week one. I mean, North Dakota State's really talented, and then Nebraska. I mean, Nebraska's going to be one of those sleeper teams in the Big Ten that I think is going to have a chance to be towards the top of the conference. So. I don't love Colorado this year. I didn't love Colorado last year, and I'm not sure I'm going to love Colorado next year until they can start showing on the field what they're going to do.
Man.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, that's really where it was with Colorado. I'm not a Buffaloes fan. I'm not a Buffalo better, and I'm going to be fading them.
There you go. Rudy Reyes, your thoughts, Colorado.
You're actually going to lose a lot of time. You're going to lose a lot of time. You're going to lose a lot of money if you bet on these guys. I take nothing away from Coach Prime. I take nothing away from what he's done. But at the same token, if they were the betting team last year, I think people have lost so much money they're probably not going to bother voting to Coach Prime and the Buffaloes this year.
There you go. Daryl Harris, sorry we didn't get to that WNBA. You guys can check out Daryl Harris, get his picks, and pay for them over on Instagram at @DHoopster_. Guys, we got to get out of here. Thank you so much for coming on today. Thank you so much for Rodney Knuppel. Follow him on Instagram at Knuppel.Rodney. Rudy Reyes, my main man from KSBY in Central California Coast. Follow Rudy over on Instagram at Rudy Reyes. Quick shout out for Rodney and then Rudy, then we'll get out of here. Go ahead, guys.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you having me on. I love the show, and I'm really excited about football and can join you anytime.
There you go. So glad to have you back. Looking forward to having you on this season. And then my main man, Rudy Reyes, thank you so much. A newcomer to the big board. Dropping some grease, man. We're definitely going to have you back ASAP. Again, to stay in touch with you, continue to keep us up to date with what's going on with the pro and college football out in California. Any final shout-outs before we get out of here and get to the sports book? Go ahead, my friend.
Well, hey, I appreciate you having me on, JV. It's certainly been a pleasure, and thank you, everybody who's been listening. You can find me at therudedogshow.com. Check out news reports at KSBY.com. And if you're into California regional news on iHeartRadio, be sure to check that out as well. Yesterday, I did have a great conversation with MLB.com's best, John Morosi. You can find that on therudedogshow.com. But thanks a lot. Appreciate you having me on.
There you go, Rudy Reyes. My main man, Daryl Harris. Again, quick shout-out to you and Baby Bassy. I know you had to get to the work. Again, he's got those WNBA picks. So, again, guys, that's a wrap. Vegas Scoreboard Express. We'll be back next week. Got the special editions coming out during the week on jbtheticket.com. Get over to the sportsbook. Enjoy your Sunday and get the money.
You're listening to the boss of the big board, JB the Ticket. Vegas Scoreboard Express, giving you that grease.